Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshop, where we get together in the middle of the week and we talk technology and learn more. Today, we are very pleased to have Monica Tate with us today, who is going to do a tremendous presentation, I know, even before, because it's something that's on all of our minds all of the time. Monica is an assistant United States attorney in the major frauds section in Los Angeles, California, and has been an AUSA since 1999. She is a federal prosecutor responsible for charging and conducting trials against defendants accused of federal fraud offenses. Monica is the Elder Justice Coordinator for the Central District of California. Previously, she worked as a staff attorney at the Federal Trade Commission. Monica will be discussing the likely impacts of artificial intelligence on familiar scams. In addition, she'll be discussing the widespread crypto investment scams that are currently proliferating and how to avoid them, and a few other things probably along the way. So, Monica, welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshop, and I turn things over to you.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
All right, terrific. Good morning or good afternoon. Good morning for me. And thank you very much for inviting me to share with your group. I'm going to share my screen, and perhaps John will tell me if it's visible. Hold on. Is everything visible there? Okay,
Yep.
Let me see. I need to move this thing out of the way so that I can play the slideshow. Okay, great. So I want to begin by saying that my remarks today are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the United States Attorney's Office, the Department of Justice, or the United States of America. Yeah, I'm a federal prosecutor, as was stated, and I do prosecute fraud crimes. I prosecute I've done many cases on transnational fraud crimes, including grandparent scams, lottery scams, and recently had a trial relating to gift card scams. So I do have a lot of cases in these areas, and I am passionate about these matters. So I'm going to talk to you today about some trends, then potential impacts of AI and scams, and then also want to talk about a very prevalent scam that's going around that relates to crypto investment. So before doing this presentation today, I did another sweep of news articles to see if I could actually find charged cases that alleged that AI was used in a scam. And I wasn't able to do that in my brief search, but there's a lot of talk about it because it's obvious that AI would be useful in scammers, to scammers if they were in a variety of types of scams, and that's what I'm going to talk about. But I hope that this talk will also help you in general have a scam awareness to the extent you don't already have, and perhaps learn a few tips to possibly be able to avert a scam or to help someone who might be asking you for advice about some message that they received. So the usual goals of a scammer are to get you to click on a link where they will install malware, or they'll steal your data or your other personal information, to get control over your computer and take over bank accounts, steal your money. That's what happens when you click on a link. So AI or not, the usual goals of a scammer are to get your money, whether or not you're clicking on links. And AI or not, the usual goals of a scammer are maybe to steal your personal info or to use you to assist them in scamming other people. And that's called recruiting people to be money mules, or money, people think it's a job, perhaps money transferring, but they're really helping scams. So when AI enters the equation, the scammers still have the same goals, but they just have potentially new tools to use. And so the first easiest thing that we could see with that AI could assist scammers in would be create better targeted phishing emails. So I think this seems to be a very tech-aware crowd. You're probably aware of phishing. And phishing is the practice of sending you an email that is probably personally targeting you to try to get information about you in order to craft the email to make you believe that that it's from somebody you know or somebody in your circle, or perhaps your boss if it's a business type of scam. And again, the goal is to usually get you to click on a link or end up sending money because you're fooled into thinking that the email is legitimately from somebody that you ought to be responding to. So the old advice that we have always given people with phishing is that when you receive an email out of the blue, or what appears to be from a person that you know or from an organization that you know that's targeting you directly, that you should be on the lookout for things like poor spelling, bad grammar, because those things can be indicative of perhaps a foreign actor having written the email rather than the person that you're expecting it to be from. And if you look carefully, it used to be the case that you might be able to spot a scam email like that. In other words, if you received an email, if you're in what frequently happens in this one scam called business email compromise is a company employee who's in the banking department, let's say, or the accounting department gets an email that is supposedly from the CEO, but really it's not. It's from a scammer posing as the CEO. And it used to be the case that you could check that email maybe for poor spelling and you might be alerted to a problem. But the invention of AI means that this advice is less useful in order to spot a scam. And so we can't rely on that advice anymore, I think, because it's so easy to run text through grammar correctors and to fix it and make it seem like perfect English. So again, AI plus the scammer leads to better phishing. So you need other red flags. You need to be aware of other red flags rather than just poor grammar or bad spelling. So some red flags of phishing scams that will exist regardless of AI or not AI is just the basic red flag of beware of clicking a link anytime you receive any email or any text message. In fact, I can tell you that I almost never click on a link in any email at any time. Even if I'm positive that it comes from my bank because I've hovered over the sender and I can see that it comes from the correct email domain for my bank, I will not click on that link. I will instead go to the source, open up my browser to what I know my bank's web address to be and go from there, because there's just so much danger. It's just I don't want to be in a position where I click thoughtlessly on a link and invite malware into my computer or onto my phone. Next, there's an example that I did find news articles about. And job scams are common and also commonly used with phishing emails. And a red flag in job scams that will exist regardless of whether AI is being used or not is that the interview for the job may be conducted completely online, an interview conducted via a chat or via email in an instance where you do not actually see the human being that is allegedly on the other end of the line interviewing you. Now, some of you may say to yourself, I would never fall for that. But especially since the pandemic, many people do work at home and maybe think that this is the new way things are done. But in fact, that is a red flag. Another red flag for a job scam, whether or not AI would be involved, would be when the salary that's being offered is completely out of line with reality and you know it's too good to be true. So other advice that continues to be relevant, AI or not, are requests that you open new bank accounts. That the reason why that is a problem is because many times people recruit alleged job applicants to sign up for a job that is a money transfer agent, and they have various names for it. But they call it processing, they call it invoice processing, and all you do is you receive payments into a bank account, and then you send those payments to where you're directed to send them by your quote employer. In fact, you must beware of ever giving your bank account number for a job for any purpose, including for direct deposit for a supposed new remote work job that you're going to do. Because that sort of banking request is possibly setting you up to be one of the pipelines for a scam, and we call that money muling, which is when scammers recruit members of the public who are sometimes unwitting and have no idea what they're actually involved in, to receive payments from victims, but you may not know it, that's what you're doing, and then to send that money along as directed by, unbeknownst to you, a scammer, and so that the money flows out of the United States, usually without without flagging who the true parties responsible for the payment are. And so this is a common aspect of job scams. On my last bullet there, I also flag another aspect of common job scams in which you're given your job is involves you receiving checks to buy equipment or set up. In other words, yes, you're hired. Wonderful. Okay, well, we're going to send you a check so you can buy yourself a new laptop, buy yourself a new chair, buy all of your equipment. And then you are sent a check, but the problem is the check is a fake check. And once you deposit it, and actually you're asked to send back the an overpayment, for example, then you lose the overpayment when the check bounces several days later. So that's a different kind of scam, because that's a scam that's trying to get your money as opposed to a scam that's trying to use you to get other people's money. So one very likely use of AI to enhance scams is to enhance impersonation scams. And the number one scam in this area is the relative in distress or grandparent scam. I hope most of you have heard about this scam. It's terrible. It's basically extortion. It's just that you don't know that that's what's happening to you. Scammers contact a potential victim almost always by phone, and the scammers pose as the relative of the victim, which is why we call it the grandparent scam, because sometimes they pose as a grandkid or another relative. And sometimes the scammer will, in other words, if it's a male relative, they'll have a young male person doing the impersonation. Likewise, if it's a female relative. And often the victim will say, Johnny, your voice sounds funny. And the imposter will say, oh, I was in a car accident, and so my nose was broken, and that's why I sound different. Or I have a cold, that is why I sound different. So that's the key entry point, is you're contacted by a relative or someone who you believe is your relative. So I'm going to get to later on that is where the AI can come in. Alternatively, and in addition, after you're contacted by the relative, or sometimes instead of being contacted by a relative, the victim is contacted by an imposter pretending to be a police officer or a lawyer or a law enforcement officer who is helping the relative or is prosecuting the relative, depending on the imposter. In any case, the claim is that the relative needs money to solve a serious legal issue. They need bail money. They need money to pay a victim. If they're in a foreign country, they claim they've been in an accident and they need to pay for the person they've harmed in the accident in order to get out of jail. It's always urgent. It's always needing the money immediately. And sometimes victims are told, for example, in the case of bail money, victims are told, well, you're going to get the money back. You just need to send the money now so that he can get out of jail. Very frequently, the victim is told that there's a secrecy obligation. It used to be that the imposter who's pretending to be the relative will say, "Grandma, please don't tell my mom, you know, she'll kill me," or something like that, something simple. But I've actually heard in a recent case that I charged, in that case, frequently a police officer was calling, and they would claim that there was a gag order that prevented the victim from saying anything to anybody. They couldn't talk to their bank, they can't talk to anybody, or they'll be in violation of the gag order and they'll be arrested. That was a frequent ploy in the one that I recently charged. So the victim is asked to send money in a very fast way, by wire, by going to the bank, getting cash, wrapping it up in foil and sending it by mail, like inside magazines or books. I'll get to why the foil in a minute. Or the victim is asked to get cash and is told that someone will pick up the cash from their house. And so the scammers will arrange for a courier who may or may not know what they are doing. In other words, they may or may not be complicit. The scammers will arrange for somebody to pick up the cash from the victim. Why would they ask for cash to be wrapped in foil to be sent by mail? I believe that is because the US mail, as well as UPS and FedEx, commonly have ways to detect currency in mail, for example, by dogs. And I think that the belief is, anyway, that is going to prevent the cash from being discovered. That's, I think, the belief of the scammers. So once a victim does agree to send money and does successfully send money, almost inevitably the victim is asked to send money again, which is called reloading. And frequently the excuse will be, for example, if the victim was called by a police officer the first time, the next person that will allegedly be calling the victim will be posing as a lawyer and will say that there's money needed for court fees or whatever it is. But victims have lost literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to this scam. Most of the people who've lost hundreds of thousands, they were convinced that it was, you know, it was a temporary loan of the funds, and that they were going to get it back. And I know that many of you are saying to yourself, I would never fall for this. I cannot believe these people. But you have to put yourself in the position of someone who's in a heightened state of emotion, high adrenaline, and they're just not thinking straight, and it is not their fault. It is true that some people do not have, you know, are taken advantage of, who have less capacity. That is true, but that is not at all the case for the majority of the victims that I've spoken to, at least. Instead, it's a type of a fight or flight response that these people trigger in you. Like I said, it's kind of extortionate. They're saying, you know, only you can help your relative. And they put you in the feeling in the position that you're the last person, you know, between this person and jail, potentially in a foreign country. So have compassion for people who may fall for these scams. And I don't like even saying the word fall for, because when you are carjacked, you don't say, I fell for a carjacking. This is a crime. And you know, we should all have compassion for people who are affected by these crimes, because it could happen to anybody. The scammers are great at what they do. They cover their bases. They tell the victim, please, you know, the bank may ask you about this wire transfer, because that's true, the bank may ask about it, but you should tell the bank, because there's a gag order. You need to tell the bank, and they XYZ, you're investing in real estate, or this is for a down payment or something. So they cover their bases that way. I've heard many lies like that. The real estate one is a common one. And they usually, the mechanics involve the victim sending the money in the first instance to an account of a money mule, which I've already talked about. That's a third party who may or may not know what they are doing, that they're involved in a scam. And then the third party sends the money to another stop, which is often overseas. I came across a terrific example. If you want to take a screenshot, I know that maybe this will be recorded, but on 60 Minutes, they actually had a recording that a victim made of the reloading part of a grandparent scam, an actual grandparent scam. So I've got that link there. So artificial intelligence obviously has the impact to enhance any kind of impersonation scheme. So I've got an article up here linked to the FCC about grandparent scams. And in this article, they quote the Wall Street Journal um, discussing the fact that scammers can use AI tools and snippets of people's voices in order to create a conversation in that voice. And they can then duplicate the voice and hit play on the computer and actually live type what the person can say. So in other words, the scammer could be on the phone with a victim and typing in responses to what the victim is saying, and those responses are translated into an AI voice that sounds like the relative. Now, again, I haven't seen any charged examples of this occurring, but I have definitely seen demonstrations of using AI tools to do what I just described. And so this is an obvious danger, and it may be happening now because many victims, when they are interviewed about grandparent scams, they say it sounded just like my grandson. And so perhaps that was an instance of AI being used, perhaps not. It's hard to know because the victim, again, is placed into this heightened emotional state, and they may not be, thinking clearly or even hearing clearly. And they clearly believe that it's their relative, no doubt. It matters not. The AI is clearly a potential tool here. So what should you do about knowing and being aware of the grandparent scam, the relative in distress scam? Again, I want to stress that this can happen to anybody. I had a recent trial where it wasn't a grandparent scam, but it was the gift card scam. And there was also a type of imposter scam that was prevalent where victims were called and the imposter was claiming to be the IRS or the Social Security Administration. And they claimed that there was a problem with the victim's Social Security account, or that they're going to be arrested. And every one of the victims had a reason why the day that they got that call was a bad day for them, or they were somehow on their back foot. And that can happen to anybody. You can be busy one day. One of the victims was scheduled for a surgery that day, and she got this call, and it just can happen anytime. Because this woman is highly educated, and yet she believed them because she was in a vulnerable position. And so these scammers make tons of calls every day, hoping to catch somebody on their bad day. So you should ignore pleas for secrecy and always talk to somebody about these, any kind of call like this demanding urgent payment of money. One recommendation that I think is a good one is to institute a family code word so that, you and your family know, a sort of a safe word that in the event somebody really is in trouble, they could say the safe word, and then you would know perhaps that it was them. I think that it has potential for working. I can imagine ways that scammers could get around that as well. But ultimately, the thing to recognize, if possible, is to recognize the feeling of panic, recognize the feeling of your adrenaline kicking in, and pause and reflect about what you're hearing, and try to introduce some space, some time, so that you can recover from that heightened state and hopefully see through what's happening. So let me talk about something very serious that's going around right now. It's a cryptocurrency investment scam. And this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with AI, but this is extremely prevalent, and people are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars as a result of this scam. I also would call it something like the wrong number text scam, because as you're going to see, that's how it starts. Some people, including the scammers, call it pig butchering, which is a term I don't particularly like. But let me tell you a little about it. So this involves cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is Bitcoin is the most well-known one of these. And I know this is a very tech-savvy group, so perhaps you've already heard about Bitcoin. I'm going to assume that you probably have. But it's basically a digital currency instead of cash, instead of US currency. And scammers like it. Sometimes they ask victims to pay in cryptocurrency. And I'll get into a little bit on that, because there's easy ways to pay in cryptocurrency, even if you currently don't know anything about cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency is not like a bank transaction where the bank may be able to freeze and return your stolen funds. It's immediate. When you transfer cryptocurrency from one digital location to another, it's transferred. You can't dispute it. You can't get it back. Cryptocurrency is also sort of anonymous. It's not purely anonymous because it can be traced. It's laborious, but it looks at the first instance that something is being transferred from one really long number to another really long number. And the wallet on the other end, the receiving end, isn't necessarily linked to a driver's license or other ID, depending on the company or entity holding the wallet. And so there are serious challenges with tracing cryptocurrency transfers and recovering cryptocurrency assets. Although, like I said, it can be done sometimes. So pig butchering, this is an overview sort of slide describing, sort of depicting what happens in pig butchering. It is, the point of it is to get people to invest money. Usually the people are being told to invest money in cryptocurrency. And the key part of it is that the victim is fooled into believing that their investment is real. And the tools of the fooling, which I'm going to show you an example of, are fake apps and fake websites, so that you believe, if you've invested, you believe you have a real account because you can see something on your phone that has your name on it and has your alleged investment, and that your alleged investment has a certain value, and that, it's always going up. But the truth is that the minute you sent your money is gone. And this app is just a fake that's been created, for the scammers, but it has been customized just for you, to make you believe that you have an existing account. And that is why it is so successful, because it looks just like signing onto, your bank down the street. You could see your balance and your interest, et cetera. It looks just like that. It's just as convincing as that. So victims are targeted for this scam using dating websites. So it's, along the lines of a romance scam, wrong number texts, which I'll talk about in a moment, and professional networking sites online. And so basically, in any of these cases, a stranger tries to strike up a relationship with you. And it's not necessarily a romantic relationship. It's not at all. It's just a friendship, a friendly person on the other end of the line, or at least it seems like a friendly person. It is a long con. So they are huge numbers being reported. This is from the FBI statistics. The amount of money reported to be invested fraudulently in cryptocurrency investment scams, increased by almost 200% in 2021 to 2022. I mean, these numbers are huge. And so it is extremely prevalent. It's still happening now. right now, people are still being targeted for these investments with fake apps. This can happen to your neighbor. It can happen to anybody because it's so convincing. So first people contact you, then the long con begins. It can take weeks before anybody really mentions anything about investment. That is how patient the scammers are. Eventually, the person you're in a friendship with, you think you're just texting casually about the world, life, politics, who knows, whatever. And then the person will drop hints about their wonderful lifestyle and how successful they've been. And then the victim will probably, just naturally say, oh, well, how can you afford all that? The friend may text photographs that are obviously fakes of them in a fancy car or living in a beautiful place. And the person will say, oh, I've made it all in crypto. And then they will try to develop interest from the victim. And the victim may say, as would be the case for me, I don't know how to invest in cryptocurrency. And say, whoa, I can walk you through it. So they will coach the victim on how to invest and introduce them to the key piece of fraud, which is the app or website that is completely fake. And then they pressure the victim through, social pressure, but really, I think the app and the website gives you the pressure, but you pressure the victim to invest every last asset in this product, which is a complete scam. And no shame to people who do experience this. You're told that your investment is doing great. You're looking at it in black and white. It looks like it's gone up by 10%, 20%. You hear in the news about how cryptocurrency goes up and down in value in, gigantic leaps, and you believe that you're actually getting money. And the dastardly thing about this scam is that usually towards the beginning, when you invest your first, let's say $5,000, you end up believing that you make, let's say, 10,000 really quick, right? Or maybe you double your money really quick. And then the scammer encourages you to withdraw some money. And you should take a profit. Why don't you take 2,000? And so using the app, you go through a process that you believe is, making a withdrawal, just like you would make a withdrawal from your bank account. But it's completely fake. And the scammer is just giving you back some of your money to reel you in. And they actually will give you back a small amount of your money to reel you in and try to get you to invest more, because then you believe it's real. The app works. I can make a withdrawal. I'm doing great. I actually made a profit. Wow, this is fantastic. I'm going to invest more money. And that's when they have you. So this is an actual example of a wrong number text. And you may all have received these wrong number texts, and you may wonder why, what's with the wrong number text? What's the deal? What is the possible benefit of a wrong number text? Well, this scam is very often a wrong number text. So you'll start at the top. Hey, congratulations. Like, they know you, Daniel, but of course you're not Daniel, and they know that too. So you're a nice person, and so you write back, you have the wrong number. And so then they're so apologetic. And it seems so innocuous, right? It's just a wrong number. I have on the right-hand side, imagine a photo of an attractive contact here, because often the person, when you finally do talk to them, they will seem to be some very attractive man or woman. And so they just try to strike up a friendship with you. And again, as I said, this is a long con, and it takes a while before they start introducing the concept of investment, because they first want to be your friend. And again, it's not necessarily a romance. It's just a friendship. So after a long time, you'll see the introduction of, the wealth and how they, they're engaged in digital currency. And that's how they're so rich, etc. That's what I was describing before. And then they walk you through, once they have you, This is an example of how they walk a person through actually logging into a alleged app and downloading the program and then actually buying cryptocurrency. When they first have you buy the cryptocurrency, in some of the scams, they actually have you buy it from a real place. And so in other words, you really do buy Bitcoin, and they walk you completely through that, and they tell you where to send it. And you believe you're sending it to the company that has your app, that they've given you, but that's the key, is that no, there's no such thing, and you're just sending it to the scammers. And other versions of this scam, which are simpler, the pitch has been, you can invest in cryptocurrency, but you don't have to buy the cryptocurrency. Instead, you wire funds to the company in which you're investing, and the company buys the cryptocurrency, and that's how you make money. So then the victim doesn't actually have to go and go through the steps of buying Bitcoin. All they have to do is send money by wire. It's the same thing though with the fake app. There's still a fake app or a fake website that makes you believe that your investment is real. So again, here we go. This is other ways victim invests. Another way that victims invest is using Bitcoin kiosks, which some people call Bitcoin ATMs. Believe it or not, you can walk into a lot of your corner little stores. I don't want to use a brand name. And they actually will have a kiosk there that looks like an ATM where you can buy Bitcoin and you can withdraw money from your Bitcoin accounts. Victims are often sent QR codes that they can scan in order to feed cash into this kiosk to make an investment and purchase cryptocurrency. So here's an example from the screens. And I just want to play this over here so you can see how realistic this is. So this is a screenshot recording that shows what the app, a fake app, looked like in one investigation, as I understand it. Over here at the top, this is showing alleged, prices of, Bitcoin. I mean, this looks pretty realistic. It looks fancy. Somebody spent a lot of money on it. And it makes people believe that they're investing in a real thing. And that's why it is so convincing. So again, this is just summarizing. The scammer gets you to invest, usually sometimes by buying cryptocurrency directly, sometimes by just sending a wire. Again, they encourage you to take back some of your money so that you can believe that this is for real. But that's it. You're never going to be able to withdraw money again because instead they're just going to keep wanting you to invest more and more and more. What we generally hear is that once victims do ultimately either decide they need some money, a large amount of money, or they start getting suspicious, and so then they try to withdraw their money. And when that happens, usually the scammers try to get you to give them even more money. In other words, they say, well, I'm sorry, but your account has been flagged for money laundering, so you're going to need to pay money into an escrow before you can actually withdraw the money, or you need to pay fees, or, oh, you've made so much money, you have to pay your income taxes right now. Doesn't matter what they say, any additional money is being sent to the scammers. This is a great PSA, which in 7 minutes has a very entertaining but horrifying video that was created by this company. It's not a government company, but it's a public service announcement. I would recommend it to anybody if you want to screenshot that. And you'll be surprised at how many people are victimized by this scam. It's pretty horrible. I hope no one on the call today is realizing now that they might have stepped into one of these scams. But I have been at presentations where people have come up to me after the fact and told me that they just realized that this happened to them, and it's just extremely sad. Then, to add insult to injury, victims are often re-victimized afterward. Once they realize the scam has happened, more scammers contact them. It's probably the same scammers and say, oh, we're with a recovery company and we know how to trace crypto and we'll help you get your money back. And then they want you to pay more money in order to get back your lost funds. I wouldn't do it because again, how did they find out about you? They're not working with the FBI. The FBI doesn't refer private companies to help people like that. So I would be aware of that. We are taking steps to combat these scams on the federal side as well as on the state side. If you Google Erin West, she's a prosecutor up in Northern California, and she's doing a great job in her area of actually recovering cryptocurrency when possible from these scams. And if you're interested, there's a lot of videos with her on it talking about the scam and some of the origins of the scam as she understands it. So I want to sort of wrap up by telling you just some common red flags that happen in many, many scams that I hope you'll be able to sort of take to heart. Urgency, that's number one. Now, with the one I just talked about, the cryptocurrency, that one didn't have urgency. That was the long con. But in most other scams, there's always some urgency, like I'm in trouble, I need money now, or you need to act today because this is, this is a one-time only deal, or you're about to get arrested, you need to pay today. Not in person. You're contacted by somebody online over the phone, you don't know who they are, and that's the way you're being contacted. Or in the case of the imposter scams, you're again contacted over the phone. It claimed to be somebody you know, but you're not being contacted in person. So always a red flag when it's not in person. The payment methods that you're asked to use, these are a big red flag. Gift card, wire, cash, Bitcoin, all of those, red flag, there's a problem. You need to pause and reflect and, and take stock and see if you can bring the panic down, because all of these payment methods are pretty much instant, and that's the way that they take money the fastest. Secrecy, this is common too. Don't tell anybody about what is happening, keep it to yourself. There's a gag order. That is a common aspect of scams. But again, bears repeating, if it does happen to you or to somebody that you love, there is no shame. This is a crime. And we don't shame people when other people commit crimes against them. And if the worst does happen, please report it. Report scams to the FTC and to the FBI. Report details like email addresses, phone numbers, websites. If it was a crypto investment scam, very important, report wallet addresses, very granular details about where the money was sent, the Bitcoin addresses, QR codes, everything like that. So IC3.gov is the FBI's site. I have a next slide about that. And FTC.gov is where the FTC's complaints are linked to. How are those used by law enforcement? So IC3 and the FBI, my understanding is that they do intake reports as they come in. In some instances, when they believe that they're able to recover money, the FBI does have a team of people that is tasked with recovering money, but it has to have happened within 48 hours or less of the time of the report. So it's only when people act extremely fast is that even a possibility. Even if the FBI or the FTC or other law enforcement, even if they don't individually act on your claim because they are not able to act on most individual claims or complaints, the complaint data is so valuable because down the line, when I'm investigating something new, I always go back to the complaint databases to see, has this phone number been used before in a scam? Has this bank account been used before in a scam? And the complaint data gives you very valuable information. I can use that information, and the agents can use that information to get a search warrant if we're on an investigation. It gives us probable cause potentially to believe that this person, who uses this phone number, is involved in a scam because it's been reported before. Let me take a drink. Hold on a moment. Water. Just feeling my voice going. So again, ftc.gov or reportfraud.ftc.gov. These are the websites. Again, don't expect that you're going to be individually contacted about your individual scam. Do report it to your local police as well. because sometimes local police also have the tools to be able to take some action. But I don't want to make you think that recovery is likely in these transnational scams. The sad case is that it's often not possible because the money has just gone overseas immediately. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't be reported, because we can still use the data in order to stop other scammers. And so here's the screenshots showing how to file complaints. And I think that's it for me. And I think, John, you indicated that we would do questions after. Is that right?
Judy we'll check with her to see if she has questions that were submitted, and
Yes.
we'll run those through.
Well, may I ask, because I do have another call that I have to go to in about 35 minutes.
Oh, then we'll get your stuff taken care of before that.
All right. Well, should I just you want to pause then, or?
No. We're going to switch to Judy.
Okay.
And you're going to close your presentation.
Okay, hold on a moment. Stop sharing. Thank you. How about that?
Very good. Okay. This is a question about the danger of clicking on an unsubscribe link. And this person's answer was, I guess the better approach is to send it to spam and delete it. Is there anything else someone should do
on unsubscribe links
other than send it to spam and delete it?
Sending it to spam and delete it is a great way of handling that. And I'm going to now admit that is the one link that I do click on, but only when it's a legit company. Like, in other words, I know, for example, recently I went shopping in a furniture store. And so, the representative, whatever, oh, let me have your email address, I'll send you a quote. And they did. And then the furniture store starts sending me stuff. So I know where that came from, right? So I know that that's legit when I get an annoying email from the furniture store. And so I did click on the unsubscribe link just yesterday, unsubscribe to that. So when no, then I think an unsubscribe is okay. But a true spam, I would never hit unsubscribe to. So that would be, that's kind of a judgment call. And so I would do what you do, which is, just send it to spam and have some sort of a filter on that they all just go to spam.
And one of the reasons you want to put it in your spam folder is you want to let your email provider know it's spam, like
right.
email or anybody. Gmail is excellent about that. I don't get any spam in my inbox. It automatically goes in my spam folder. But if you go into your spam folder, don't automatically check everything. Take a look at what it is, because if you're getting an email from a new person, it might be in there. You got a new person in your club, and they send you an email. Well, Gmail says, gee, this person isn't in Judy's contact list. It'll be in spam, so you need to be aware of that. From Ken, can the scammer change your DNS so the bank name goes to their IP address?
That's beyond my my expertise. I'm so sorry.
And I have no input either. So is there somebody that can answer that? Anybody? You can unmute yourself.
No, they can't.
No, you can. But John will
they raise their hands so we know that they've got the answer.
Anybody has an answer? Raise your hand. John will unmute you.
Judy, it's Mark. I've got a comment.
Good. Yeah, I was channeling from California to Florida. Okay.
If they can get on your computer and they can modify your host's file, then, and I think I've read something about that happening, then they can actually set it up. So you type something like bankofamerica.com and it actually goes to the scammer's website. But they have to have gotten on your computer first.
Okay, so don't let strangers in your house. what's the difference between pig butchering and Ponzi schemes?
Well, a Ponzi scheme is a kind of scheme where the scammer robs Peter to pay Paul. So in other words, investors are solicited to invest in a certain product or venture, and they're usually promised certain levels of return. They're promised either specific levels or just it'll be great, it'll be high. And when investors keep their money in the investment, they're usually told with statements that their money is going up in value. But when investors try to withdraw money, in fact, the venture or the product is BS and it's not making any money or not making enough money. And so the Ponzi aspect is when the scammer repays you when you're asking for a withdrawal with Judy's money. In other words, they claim that you've made 10%, but you really haven't because it's all BS. And instead of paying you from profit, they're just taking Judy's money and paying it to you. And that's a Ponzi scheme. So in other words, that's where people's investments are pooled in a way, whether they know it or not. And a new investor's money or an other investor's money is used to pay alleged profits to the investor who's requesting a payback. And I've prosecuted many Ponzi schemes. The difference is, well, I didn't address the difference. So the difference with pig butchering is there's nothing. There's no investment. They're just stealing your money. That's the difference.
Drat, always something new. Okay, David Ross, please unmute yourself.
Nope, nope.
Well,
Not till I ask him to.
I'm getting them ready.
Okay.
Okay, am I on? I guess
Yep.
my question is about unsubscribing. Now, I get a lot of especially political emails and requests for funds and things, and they at the bottom it says you can unsubscribe, and I've hit them, but they never asked for any other information, so I figured it's safe whether they unsubscribe me or not. They didn't get any more information. Is that true, or am I still in trouble?
You know, I think that's a little beyond my technical ability as well, because I don't know if you just clicking on it and nothing happens, if that could trigger some malware. It might. So I don't feel like I can really answer. I mean, there's often a situation where people click on a link and they don't even know that what they clicked on is downloading in the background. So I think that's kind of a danger. That's my very.
So it's not really just.
Yeah. Exactly. The fact that you have to respond to anything is not determinative of whether the link is malicious.
What it can do is let somebody know that this was a real address that they made up.
That's true.
Or those will all go away come mid-November. Because
It usually does. It usually does.
Across the United States with your those people who are running for your particular political party. I get nothing from Republicans, just Democrats, no matter where they're running.
Judy, how did you pull that off? I get from both.
Do you really?
And I've never donated to any of them.
Huh. Interesting. Well, I do look and see just for grins, and I'll let you know if I go back to my Republican days, okay?
Okay. Marshall. Question for Monica?
Yes, I kind of a two-part question, but they're very closely related. I was wondering about what Zelle, PayPal, etc., if there's any scams that are involving those. And then at the same time, there was an article in one of my local papers today that someone posing as a fire department was calling and saying, do you have fire alarms and things like that? And they were very nice. And then they ended it with, could you send us a very modest $20 donation to cover these surveys? And which they were kind of surprised that it was such a modest amount. And then they said, Oh, yeah, well, they'll send a check and they said, no, just give us your credit card or send it electronically. And that let off the red flag.
So if you want me to address you asked about PayPal and Venmo, yes, those are also red flag payments because they're difficult to reverse sometimes. And so the use of no, nothing against those companies, but the use of that payment method, just like a wire transfer, introduces a level of difficulty in getting your money back sometimes, just because of the nature of the transfer. For example, if you send somebody a Venmo, or then the money that you send is theirs immediately, and it would be not difficult for them to just take all the money out of that account, empty it out, and where's the recourse? It's gone. So there's that. Now, about the fire department thing, yeah, well, that sounds like a I don't know how to describe that, but it's sort of a charity solicitation, I guess. I don't know if they're a real charity or not. I don't have a direct experience with those kinds of scams.
Well, the fact that they wanted credit card information.
Well, yeah, I mean, they obviously want money. They want money. If I could do one pitch, again, I know this is a very sophisticated group. You do technology presentations every week. I never, credit cards actually have a great amount of protection built in under federal law, in my opinion. And debit cards do not have the same level of protections. And so when paying for something by credit card, at least you have the ability to dispute the charge, as long as you act quickly within the statutory time frame, which I believe is 60 days from maybe the date it appears on your statement, but you should look up the FTC for that. Debit cards, you also can dispute, but the issue is that if the scammer has gotten a hold of, your rent money, then it's going to take you some time to get back your rent money. And so that's why a debit card, I think, is a very dangerous thing. And I never use them except at an ATM.
Monica, we get those for the sheriff's department too in Santa Clarita.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah. So,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they're just trying to raise some money, but I don't know if it really is the sheriff's department or if it's another organization, claiming to be associated. I just don't even know.
Yeah, we're told not to pay any attention to it. They're really good about, sending their emails out and next door stuff like that, which is way cool. Sandy, it's your turn.
You need to unmute. Sandy, you're not unmuted.
Oh, sorry, that was a mistake. My question's been answered.
There you go.
Oh no, it's Sandy Duma who's been called, not Sandy T.
Oh.
Okay, I was just saying that some emails I've received that at first glance you might not think of. I'll get a note from that says, it's from somebody I know, and they'll say something like, oh, here's some photos of us, or, oh, I should have sent you this before. So it just pays to always try to hover over, even though it seems like it's from somebody that, you're friends with. They can have been hacked, and just by that quick clicking on the link that they have, you can have some trouble. I almost fell for that.
You're right. Yes, that does definitely happen.
It's just a casual, note to email to you, and you might just click it. That's all I wanted to comment.
Yes. Right. And then, of course, if you do, the good thing to do, if that does happen, if that person is a friend of yours truly, is to pick up the phone and call them and tell them that you'd received that odd email, because they may have an intruder in their email account.
Okay.
Maybe not. I mean, it may be they're spoofing, but they should know so that they could maybe warn other people. I just want to say, somebody asked me to put in the chat the link to the public service announcement from that company on the pig butchering video. I think that's what they were asking for, and I just put it into the chat.
Thank you.
Edwin Davidson, it's your turn.
Now it's Jonathan's turn.
Hi, yeah, this is, I keep getting these weird emails. I was starting to do a investigation into Instagram scams that are going on last year. And I delved fairly far into this, and now I'm getting consistently this one scam. I've never given him any money. It's always in my junk email folder someplace, right? But they're like always asking for somewhere between $300 and $1,500, and I always report these to the IC3. And I've never gotten any responses, but they're always saying, "Oh, we have control of your computer, and if you don't send us money, we're going to get this." And one thing you explained to me, the reason I've never heard from anybody is that obviously I've never sent them any money because it's like they're claiming they have something I know they don't have. So I'm not falling for it. At the same time, it's obviously people that hit these dating sites or, porno sites, slightly pornographic type sites that are girls are, saying, "Oh, come here, come hither," or whatever. It's, they think they have videos of it, right? And I'm just wondering, how do we get this kind of person stopped? And how do we, actually scan our computers? Now, I've got fairly heavy security on my computer, and I'm pretty sure that there's nothing going on. But there's that in the back of my mind, they're saying, "Oh, I've got control of your computer and this thing." And they're sending me emails in areas because I created new emails just for doing this, right? And they actually have my, other emails. So they have a level of being able to know I've got these emails. So I'm sort of going, there's a level of understanding they have that is beyond what they should have. But I'm not worried about them really having anything that they're saying they have. So I don't send them any money. I sort of laugh and report at the IC3. But at the same time, is there something we can use to find out how they get these emails you're not using when you're, going to these nefarious sites?
I don't know of any way of doing that, but I will say that there are ways when you even open an email, there is a technological feature in emails that allows the sender to know that you have opened it. And so I wouldn't even open emails that you believe are like that if I were you.
These are still in the junk folder. So
right, but I wouldn't. But if you know what they're saying, you've opened them.
No, I've just viewed them in the junk folder, and I've sent them from the junk folder. I know.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay. So they're not opened. Okay.
They're not. They're still in the junk folder. They're stripped down. So
there's a lot of ways. Like, for example, I mean, we all know it's a little uncanny, right? When you are, for example,
but they're asking. The thing is, they're asking for me to send it to a crypto.
Right. Well, don't do it.
I keep reporting these crypto accounts.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, keep reporting them. Thank you for doing that. Because I mean, but on the other hand, I mean, so you can see all that just from the junk folder view. You've got. It sounded like you had to open an email in order to see the long.
No, you can read the whole email from the junk folder.
If you can read the. Yeah. Well, I don't know what program you're using, but I mean, look,
I use Outlook usually.
If if you're reporting them, I appreciate that, and it's helpful because you never know. There could be a pattern, and that could be useful and discerned by analysts at the FBI, et cetera. But is there a way for you personally to find out how they're getting your info? I don't think so. I mean, all of our info is just out there for the taking and for the buying. Anytime you click on anything, depending on the website, how honest or not they are, they can gather information about other things that you've done, other searches that you've conducted on the internet. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they could link one of your email addresses that you use on computer X with another email address that you also use on computer X, because of the cookies that websites leave on your computers. That's kind of beyond my abilities. I think that the best defense is what you seem to be doing, which is, don't open those emails, don't interact with those people, and be vigilant, because you are being apparently targeted. Because if they are triaging your name, your emails, and they're figuring out that you're the same person, then I would say that it sounds like, there's a phishing group that is interested in you potentially. I mean, I don't want to scare you or alarm you, but it does sound like you're being vigilant.
Jonathan,
one thing that
Edwin, we've got a number of people that want to try to ask questions
before
she's gone.
One more point, though.
Points can come later.
You're saying that I'm targeted, and yes,
maybe. I mean, from what you're describing.
But let me explain. It's like it started from Instagram. So Instagram, and I keep getting these things from Instagram. So it could be Instagram is how I got targeted in the first place, because this started me on this look into this stuff, which it's like I don't get into this thing on a regular basis, but I'm like, why are all these 20-year-old and 20 to 40-year-old girls targeting me? And I find out most of them are guys. So they're not really even girls on Instagram. They're stolen accounts. I've gotten into this with Instagram. It started with Instagram. So I am targeted, and I'm still being targeted.
Well, that's because your email address has been sold. It's been stolen and sold to the world. It's out on the dark web in a packet with, all our information. I always tell everybody I've been out and about, for 30 some more years, and I'm on all the bathroom walls out on the internet. Long before we were ever talking about stuff like this. Gary Odie.
Nope. Jonathan's up there before.
So Jonathan, over to the other side.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks so much. The first thing is, Judy, thanks so much for doing this. This is a very timely topic. And Madam USA, thank you so much for everything you're doing about this, because it's so important. Two quick questions. The first is links in emails. Now, do you know a lot of websites are now letting people log in by using the email they have for you, legitimate websites, and having you click a link in that for all the people who don't use password managers. So the question I have for you is, you're not saying that if you expect an email with a link and it looks like the email you expect, you shouldn't click the link?
You're right. I mean, my overall advice is, don't click on links, but you're right. When you have a recovery, like for example, you're on a particular website and you use a forget password, or yes, you're right. You have a two-factor authentication, and you're expecting it and it comes 1 minute later, then that's a different situation. But I want to emphasize the vigilance about links. So perhaps I should not say I never click on links, but I never click on.
In all honesty, yes. you could actually frame it that way to say, this isn't to say that you can never unsubscribe from a legitimate email list.
Yes,
or
you're right.
Never click on a link. But the hallmark is you're not expecting this.
Well, but I think that the thing is that you might also fall for something that you were expecting. For example, your monthly bank statement. And so because scammers often pose as, the major banks. and send you things that look like a bank statement, or they send you things that just look like a regular bank communication. And so you might think that that falls into the category, oh, I'm expecting that. And so then you would be in danger. And so I don't really know if so I'd rather just say don't click on links, and be probed by a smart person like you as to, well, really, Monica, every time? It's like, okay, you're right, there are exceptions, but just be aware of links.
And not only that, but also particularly for the financial stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, last question. Does federal law have enough disincentives to this activity to try to really attack it that way? Because there doesn't seem to be any other way to disincentivize the stuff that older people and people who are victims can come back from.
Well, the deterrence, it depends on being able to prosecute people. And it's difficult to prosecute overseas scammers for multiple reasons. First off, the difficulty of identifying who the heck they are. Beyond that, the difficulty of where they are and whether that country has an extradition treaty or not, whether they can, be maybe intercepted in some other country that they might travel to. So it is difficult when the scams are overseas. It absolutely is. So it's kind of more of a there are issues that are just the nature of our free and open society that we are taken advantage of sometimes. And so our infrastructure, our digital infrastructure, unfortunately allows a lot of this to happen.
How much more time do we have, Monica?
I have another 5 minutes.
Okay. Then
And if you have a specific questions for Monica, put it in the chat box, because Judy will send them to her and she'll answer them and send it back, and we'll include that in the follow-up. So Gary, question?
Yeah, I have a suggestion and a question about a program that I use. It's called Mail Washer. And what it does is I can look at my email first while it's still on the server. I can select those that I don't ever want to have again. I can click on spam, and so every time they come in, it says spam, and I can automatically just hit wash mail and they're gone. It also gives me the ability to see what's in the email, where it's from more specifically than just the title. So my question is this safer than, am I really safer doing this than just dumping them on my server onto my email and then hoping that I don't get a spam or something bad in an email, even though I delete it automatically? But this program called Mail Washer lets me see it off on the server, so I can deal with it there and not before I even dump any things that I know are good onto my computer. Is that
I'm sorry that I just don't have the technical knowledge to be able to address that question. I apologize.
Okay.
And she's also with the government and can't recommend anything.
Even if I could, that's right.
Well, it was not for recommending. It was really just the technical part about somebody seeing it.
Are you talking about Fire Trust out of New Zealand?
It is a Fire Trust program, I think.
But that's what you're calling Mail Washer. It's by Fire Trust out of New Zealand.
I sent you a link. It is Fire Trust, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can get them to give a presentation. They used to give a presentation.
Oh, super.
At the Southwest Conference that was in San Diego for 1,000 years.
I've been using it for years. I just feel safer.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Monica, thank you so very much. This is way cool.